Hello and welcome back to Invincible Asia. I'm George Clark and this is Deep Impact, my new series where I go back and take a look at the incredible but now defunct Impact Action Movie Magazine. To launch the series, I wanted to kick off with the very first issue that I bought, not the very first issue that was released because unfortunately I missed out on that, but the very first one that I bought, and that for me was January 1994. Don't forget folks, before we go any further, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, ring the bell and all that jibber jabber, and thank you very much for supporting Invincible Asia. So I was hoping to start this series in January of 2024 to mark 30 years of me buying my first issue of Impact Movie Magazine. But life doesn't always play out the way you want, of course. Although I'm only a year late, so I'm not going to worry too much. Now, while I'm well aware that Impact Action Movie Magazine had launched a couple of years before this particular issue, this is where it all began for me. I never did get any back issues then, which was just stupid now that I think what I'm paying to try and find them. So as each of them do come in from the previous 2 years, I'll drop the odd bonus episode in between so I don't balls up the order of how I'm doing them. Now, let's get started. It's just turned January in 1994. I'm on my way home after school. I'm 16, I'm impressionable, I've been collecting Jackie Chan and Kung Fu movies for a few years already. Then I walk into a random newsagent's in the estate with my friend and see my hero on the front of a magazine. I had to get it, and even though it was only $1.75, I still had to borrow something off my mate to buy it, as I never had more than £1 a week for pocket money. Yes, even at the age of 16, £1 a week. Now, of course, this main picture was from Drunken Master 2, which I had no idea about. Remember, we had no internet and social media to update us on film news, just magazines. And I hadn't even seen Drunken Master at this point. It was such a hard film to come by here in Northern Ireland. But it was a Jackie Chan special and had a glorious poster of My Lucky Stars inside, something I had on my wall from the DNR I bought this issue, although that's long gone after years of moving about. Around the edges, you'll see the names of stars and things that take place throughout the magazine, such as Cannon Films, RoboCop 3, and action stars like Chuck Norris, Wesley Snipes, Sylvester Stallone, Brian Bosworth, Lorenzo Lamas, Michelle Khan, Cynthia Rothrock, and, well, Patrick Macnee, I suppose. Anyway, let's go Deep Impact. Join the stars, subscribe to Impact. Now this was a great first page for me to open up on. Although it was just an ad for subscribing and those Impact binders, it was just cool to see stars like Van Damme, Hulk Hogan and Jeff Wincott reading back issues, and to see that there were so many that I had missed. If I had the money then, I absolutely would have paid for all of them. I mean, they were $1.75 and now some feckers are selling back issues on eBay for anywhere between 12 and 14 quid. It's just madness. Over the page, we have Baywatch. Oh, what a play on words. So, of course, Bay Logan was the editor of Impact at this stage and wrote many of the articles included, and while I know the controversy surrounding his name recently, it's obviously going to be hard to avoid throughout this series. But it isn't about him. It's about the magazine as a whole and the news of Asian cinema that it brought to us fans. Now, saying that, just look at this list of contents. I mean, you can see why I got excited. Jackie Chan, Cynthia Rothrock, RoboCop and Hong Kong movie news. And I just love this promo shot of Jackie and Joey Wong from City Hunter. I mean, I don't even think the film had hit rental stores at this point, maybe coming out later that year before its retail release by MIA and Eastern Heroes on VHS, but I was very excited for it. And I do love this little paragraph by Bay that says, "Speaking of classics, you'll have noticed that this issue is a Jackie Chan special. Probably never in the field of high-concept filmmaking has so little been published about a man revered by so many. At Impact, we're doing our best to correct that. In this special edition, you get an interview with Chan the Man, an update on his latest films, a poster, and interviews with his Snake and the Eagle's shadow colleague Roy Horan, and with his protector director James Glickenhaus." Can't wait to read that one. It's recognition long overdue for an action star who even rated a name check in the aforementioned Demolition Man. If there's a neglected superhero who you feel we should devote some in-depth coverage to, please write and let us know. Absolutely love it. Let's move on. On page 4 and 5, we see a double page spread of RoboCop. Now, I love RoboCop, but this is obviously focusing more so on the new actor for RoboCop 3, Robert Burke. Now, while I enjoyed reading this article on RoboCop, because who doesn't love RoboCop, I want to really focus this series more so on Asian cinema, although I'll no doubt refer to Hollywood stuff now and again. But this was obviously in the run-up to part 3, when Robert Burke replaced Peter Weller as the hero, stating that he wasn't interested as it was too violent, and that he thought the first was good but the second was bad. Guess he didn't know what the response was going to be towards his chapter. Initially filmed in 1991 but not released until 1993. Bankruptcy, poor script, poor acting, and definitely the weakest of the trilogy. Sorry, Robert. The story continues over page, and of course Burke is still acting today. Does a lot of TV work, but he did appear briefly in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And I have to say, I do love the old RoboCop comic books. I remember reading a few in my teen years, but it has been decades since I last looked at them. Overleaf, we have The Lightning Rod. Now, I remember this page exciting me, just seeing little news blocks of different movies spread over the 2 pages. I absolutely loved it. Of course, Stallone's Demolition Man was a huge deal and a great movie, and this talks about how he is next set to film Judge Dredd, which I really enjoyed, even though most people didn't, right after he finishes The Specialist with Sharon Stone. I don't remember too much about that film, but I do remember that it was fun. And up here, Steve Wang's Guyver, which I love. I was a big fan of Mutronics, which was the UK title of his first Guyver movie, not to mention a huge fan of both the Guyver manga and anime videos. So to learn that there was a sequel coming was very, very exciting. Although it does mention here that it might be called Mutronics 2, oddly it wasn't, and kept the Guyver Dark Hero title. And below that, we have Jeff Wincott, the Toronto Tornado. What a guy. Loved him in Karate Cop, which was my first Wincott film, aka Martial Law 2, also in Martial Outlaw, and the awesome Mission of Justice, which is sometimes known as Martial Law 3. But this was an interesting wee piece on his film, The Killing Machine, with fellow Toronto actor Michael Ironside from Total Recall. I only ever saw this once, although I know it wasn't too well received, perhaps down to its subject matter of the AIDS virus, among other stuff, but it was interesting to read that Steven Seagal had a similar idea a couple of years before. And over here we see the handsome Gary Daniels in his prime for, well, Prime Target, which I don't think I've seen, to be honest. It does mention Firepower though, which I do have, and it was just okay. Obviously a product of its time. It also mentions how he was about to start shooting the awesome Fist of the North Star, which I do love. Below him, David Bradley. What a time for action heroes, eh? Such a brief flit in the grand scheme of things. And Jesus, what a tagline. Former American Ninja is chock-a-block with chop sock. Ugh, I love David Bradley though. Handsome, good moves, good actor. It's just a shame he didn't head out to Hong Kong for a while. Now, while this briefly talks about some of his upcoming films, I was more interested in the fact that it mentioned him possibly starring in American Samurai 2, of course I adored the first, and American Ninja 6 for Canon. But of course, Canon Films went defunct the same month this magazine was actually released. And then there's Jalal Murhi. Love him or hate him, you can't deny how many fun titles he gave action fans throughout the 1990s. And while he's still in production today, his most entertaining projects kind of ended around the turn of the century. Of course, this talks about his fun VR fight flick, Expect No Mercy, which I quite enjoyed, and more so recently on Blu-ray via the Vinegar Syndrome release. It's crazy to think the traction that film would gain from the likes of a wee article in this to having a Blu-ray release and a huge cult following. It's just fantastic. The lightning rod continues onto the next page with a piece on the straight-to-video film Shadow Chaser 2 that came out in 1994. That was actually followed by part 3 in 1995. Then there's some tripe about Arnie showing up in Rio, hardly action news, and 80s kickboxing champ Kathy Long gets a piece on her action film The Stranger, which I haven't seen, but it does look shite. I really enjoyed her in Albert Poon's Nights and Under the Gun with Richard Norton, but it's strange she never did anything bigger on the action scene. Of course, we also can't forget that she starred in that god-awful feckin' family Christmas film, Santa's Summer House, with Gary Daniels, Cynthia Rothrock, and Daniel Bernhardt. Clearly the director or producer had some dirt on each of them and blackmailed them to star in that. And speaking of Bernhardt, here's a bit on his Bloodsport 2 and the delays on its production, blaming a few things such as the box office return of Jeff Speakman's Street Night, producers falling out, and the rumour that Van Damme himself had secured the rights to make Bloodsport 2. Although I love this quote at the end from producer Mark Damon. As for the forthcoming Muscles from Brussels epic, The Quest, producer Mark Damon says that it will have nothing to do with Bloodsport, other than the fact that there's a tournament at the end of it. Now you know. Oh, for God's sake. Page 11 gives us Word Up, the closest thing we had to tweets and IMDb trivia back then. Most of them are a lot of shite and completely pointless, so I'll not read them all. But here's one about the wonderful Richard Norton. China O'Brien star Richard Norton plays supporting roles in a brace of PM entertainment flicks. He takes on Out for Justice bad guy William Forsythe in Direct Hit and Don Wilson in Cyber Tracker. The Thunder from Down Under should be returning to lead roles for Right's Way, which will lens in his native Oz. Although I don't think Right's Way ever happened, to be honest. Jackie Chan is mentioned here. In development at ITC is the big screen version of the classic TV series The Prisoner, not to be confused with the Jackie Chan film of the same title released in the UK by Imperial. No word yet on whether Patrick McGoohan's involvement. And then it just stops. I don't even think that was worded correctly, to be honest. There's one for the 90s action film fans. Whatever happened to Thomas Ian Griffith? Crackerjack, that's what. Jesus Christ. North American releasing are marketing the film, which also stars Natasha Kinski and Christopher Plummer. Griffith had a checkered career before making a splash with Excessive Force. He wrote Night of the Warrior, but lost the lead to the aforementioned Lorenzo Lamas and starred in a low-budget chop sucker entitled Ulterior Motives. EF was the first of what was intended to be a series of films from New Line, but its failure at the US box office seems to have put that plan on hold. And speaking of Lorenzo Lamas, up top on the right we have a piece on him. Lorenzo overexposed, moi, Lamas. Jesus fuck. Clearly Bay had given a lot of these stars stupid nicknames that he liked to slot in the middle. Anyway, Lorenzo Lamas has another martial arts action feature ready for release. The star of CIA, codename Alexa, and Bounty Tracker, and The Swordsman, and Final Impact, and, phew, the Renegade TV series, among others, found time to make Viper for Vision International. Wait a minute, isn't there a TV series called Viper? And didn't someone announce a show with Michael Dudikoff called Viper? Or was it Cobra? Wait, wasn't there a Stallone film called Cobra? Film at 11. Oh, fucking Jesus, it's so badly written. Honest to God, this humour does not come across well. No, it's really outdated. Speaking of the dude, his new TV series entitled We Think Cobra is on the air in the States, and word is that it's a good show. Better than Renegade anyway. Oh my God. Michael Dudikoff plays a man unravelling the mystery of his late father's life. I mean, I quite enjoyed Renegade, to be honest. But yes, Michael did indeed make a series called Cobra that ran for about 22 episodes and was pretty good for the most part. Typical of early 90s TV action shows, but it worked for him and was fun. And finally, this one on my old friend Albert. Despite generally poor reviews and a lackluster showing at the US box office, Nemesis has been a hit worldwide for Imperial, and they're prepping for a sequel. Albert Pyun will return to the director's chair, but Olivier Gruner won't be starring. He's making Zero Hour for the company before moving on to make one of a number of potential projects, including Vic Armstrong's Tarzan remake and August Entertainment's Savate. I just love Albert's Nemesis, and I do enjoy the sequels, to be honest. I don't think Zero Hour with Gruner ever came about though, neither did Vic Armstrong's Tarzan remake with him, but Savate did, from director Isaac Florentine, which was a lot of fun. Overleaf, the old Avengers British TV show, gets a double-page spread, although it looks like it was lifted from a magazine in the mid-1980s with this design layout. Not appealing at all, guys. I did enjoy the Avengers show as a kid, but it's not something I've ever rushed back to, and I'm just going to skip this one. On over, we have the competition page where you could win a VHS copy of CIA Codename Alexa starring Lorenzo Lamas, his wife Kathleen Kinmont, and O.J. Simpson, as well as a photo of Chuck Norris as Walker Texas Ranger, apparently signed by the man himself. The questions for both are hilarious, and of course, you had to send your answers in on a postcard. You don't see that much these days. And these ads for attracting girls and getting muscles were in almost every magazine printed back then. And then over here we have this random and uninspiring promo shot of Jackie Chan in Island of Fire, aka The Prisoner, which I think was just coming out on VHS around this time. On page 16, we are into published gold. I mean, look at this. I remember very clearly the first time I opened this page up, I was just blown away. This was the first time I had seen any kind of publication on Jackie Chan, and to see it for a brand new movie, for something I had no idea about, was even more exciting, and those pictures were just stunning. The battle plan of Chan the Man. Jawaz Alavia interviews Jackie about Drunken Master 2. I'll just pull a few things from it here. As Jackie bounds into the room, it's hard to believe that it was 15 years ago that this Far Eastern superstar came to fame in Drunken Master, the sequel to which is just coming to an end of a troubled production on the sets behind us. He then goes on to talk about how it's been a bumpy few years for Jackie, with Miracles and Operation Condor costing a fortune to make, although failing to generate the expected box office, and that City Hunter soared, while Police Story 3 and Crime Story didn't. Interesting stuff. Up here it mentions how Stallone gave him a name check in the newly released Demolition Man, and how Jackie's last few productions have yet to get wide-scale Western releases. Of course, little did he know what was to come and how we are being spoiled today. Jawaz asks, a few years ago, you slowed your pace of production down to make roughly one film a year. After Miracles and Operation Condor, you increased the pace drastically. Why was that? Jackie Chan says, when I make these movies, I look at the big American blockbusters. Everything is so big. The budget, the locations, the stunts. I think that, to compete, you must be the same. So I'm building huge sets and I shoot in Europe. We spend a lot of time and money. It takes so long to make the money back, so Golden Harvest asked me, Jackie, please make some films where we can make money quicker. So I do Police Story 3 and Crime Story and City Hunter. Now this film we are doing, Drunken Master 2, is a big production. We take a lot of time and money. Jawaz says, what is your opinion of the current state of the Hong Kong film industry? And Jackie answers, right now, not good. This is the first year that Hollywood beat us. Films like Cliffhanger and Jurassic Park make more money than the local films. Why? Because the Chinese producers make films that nobody wants to see. Also, films that the overseas buyers don't want to buy. All these old-style kung fu movies, everybody flying around on wires. We need to look at our audience and decide what they want to see and give it to them. Jawaz states, you're critical of the current wave of martial arts movies, and yet you've returned to the genre for Drunken Master 2. Why is that? Jackie says, the Hong Kong Stuntman's Guild want money for new headquarters. Every time anyone wants money for a new headquarters, they always come to me and say, Jackie, please make a movie for us. Before I make Twin Dragons for the Directors Guild, still they don't have a headquarters. Anyway, they asked me to make Drunken Master 2. This film will be different. No wires, more real kung fu. Before, I told Choi Hark, when you do Wong Fei Hung, make it real. Instead, he has everything on wires. It's like a fantasy. So when I play Wong Fei Hung in Drunken Master 2, I make it real. We only show what I can do and what my stuntmen can do. Jawaz then goes on to say, the original director, Lu Chi-lang, or Lau Gar-lung as we all now come to know him, left the project and you took over. There were reports in the press in which you were highly critical of him. What was the problem? Jackie replies, very hard for me to answer your question. You know the Chinese saying, you can't have two tigers on one mountain. And that was the problem. Lu Sifu has his way, I have my way, I have my own idea of what the audience wants to see. Actually, he directed 80% of the movie. I just take over the ending. The ending is very important. I still have a lot of respect for Lu Chi-lang. The press always try to blow these things up, and it's just that our two styles were very different. Jawaz says, I understand that Lu Chi-lang is currently preparing Drunken Master 3, so we'll be able to compare the two styles side by side. Seeing as this magazine is distributed mainly in England, Let me ask you about Mark Houghton, the British martial arts actor. Jackie replies, yes, of all the Westerners working in Hong Kong, Mark is the most Chinese. He speaks Chinese, he knows the traditional Kung Fu very well. While we were in China, we worked together well. He's not a shoeshine boy, he doesn't all the time try to flatter me, and I respect that. Actually, we want him to film for the M part, but after his Sifu, Lu Chi-lang, left, he left with him. Right now, we're still trying to get him to come back. Now that would have given us a completely different ending for Drunken Master 2 had Mark Houghton stayed around instead of Ken Lo taking on that final role. Your last film, Crime Story, was a real change of pace. I understand that the script was actually prepared for Jet Li when he was at Golden Harvest. Jackie replies, yes, with that film, I tried to stretch a little. I did cop films before, but always cop comedy like Police Story. This movie is based on real events, on real problems we have here in Hong Kong. It's very serious. Many of my older fans don't like it. It's good to always try new things though. I like Crime Story. I think as time goes by, people will like it more. Jawaz continues, the third Police Story film, Super Cop, was very successful everywhere except Hong Kong. I understand you were not happy with the finished film. Why? Jackie Chan says, because it was never finished. Just that we ran out of time and money, so we were all sitting thinking, how do we end it so we can go home? It was very difficult. The director, who was Stanley Tong, is not too experienced, and also we were shooting sync sound, live sound on the set, which is very difficult here because no one is used to doing it, not like America. It's funny because overseas, Golden Harvest did very well with it, perhaps because Western audiences remember Police Story. Well, of course we remember Police Story, Jackie, it's one of your greatest friggin' films. Jawaz asks, speaking of America, is there any truth to the rumours that you'll be making an American film, perhaps with Sylvester Stallone? Jackie answers, actually, Stallone's mother, Jackie, is a big fan of my films. Really, she often comes to Hong Kong to see me, so I went to Hollywood to see Sly. We went to the premiere of Cliffhanger, and I visit the set of Demolition Man. I'm a big fan of his films, so I'm very happy he likes mine. As for working together, we're talking, and that's all I can say right now. I mean, they've been talking for decades. It's not going to happen. Jawaz. Jawaz goes on, you contributed an unusual cameo to the Michelle Khan film Project S. You don't normally do cameos. Why did you agree to do this one? Jackie answers, when Yoon Si Kang came back, the first film she does is My Police Story 3. In this film, she plays the same character she plays in Police Story 3. Also, the same director. They asked me to appear. It's very good for overseas market. I want to help, so I think, what can I do that will be different? Dress as a woman. So I do this fight scene dressed as a woman. Nothing to do with the main story, but the Hong Kong audience love it though. Jawaz asks, what projects do you have lined up for the near future? Jackie replies, right now I have a contract to do 4 movies with a company in San Francisco. We're still talking about what kind of films they will be. I'd still like to do my cowboy movie, my dream. We would shoot that in Texas. The next film I do may be Armor of God Part 3. Those films were very popular abroad, especially in Japan. Jawaz then asks, what do you see the next trend in Hong Kong movies being? Jackie says, I hope movies will be more real, not so many ghosts and people flying around. Maybe movies like Cliffhanger or Die Hard, where you have great stunts and special effects, but you really care about the characters. I think the producers here have got away from films with heart, and I hope that we get back to that. What a fantastic interview. Amazing. Some revealing things from Jackie there, and aside from the Stallone project that will never happen, it's good to see that he did indeed go on to make Shanghai Noon and Chinese Zodiac, which is also known as Armor of God 3. Opposite, we have the page called Tracking Jackie Chan that updates us on his productions. And again, as a young die-hard fan, it was so awesome to see this kind of thing. I'll read through. After the epic Operation Condor, Jackie has entered a new phase of creativity. Unfortunately, with the exception of the Imperial release of Twin Dragons, none of Chan's more recent films have had a mainstream UK release. Here's a breakdown of the latest Chan the Man projects you can look forward to. Police Story 3, aka Super Cop, the third installment of Chan's Ging Chat Wu Si series, provided police assassin star Michelle Khan with an Admiral comeback vehicle and a chance to return to her original surname of Yeoh. Stone Age Warriors director Stanley Tong did a great job, although his style is marketed differently from that employed by Jackie when directing the first two Police Story films. The Malaysian locations give the film a fresh look, and both Chan and Yeoh are on top form. Chances are this will be the first of the new Chan flicks to appear here, thanks to the name value of the Police Story series. Then we have City Hunter below that, Chan's live-action version of the Japanese comic book and anime with a tip of the Jackie Chapeau to Street Fighter 2. A Technicolor fun and fight fest, Sing Si Lap Yao has a cartoon quality that will appeal to viewers of all ages. Jackie is perfect casting as the superheroic, skirt-chasing central character, and Commonwealth villains Richard Norton and Gary Daniels provide him with worthy opponents for final real showdowns. City Hunter has a video game vibrancy about it and shows you what Super Mario Bros. Should have looked like. Crime Story follows that. Opinion is sharply divided over this tough, reality-based cop thriller shot back-to-back with City Hunter. A definite change of pace for Chan, the film features his finest acting role to date, along with some action set pieces which, though different from the Police Story style, still impress. In a role originally intended for Jet Li, Jackie plays a burned-out cop trying to rescue a kidnapped millionaire. Unlike his usual characters, Chan's lethal lawman is a man alone, without friends or his usual bevy of beauties. With its Ridley Scott lighting effects and relentless pacing, Crime Story is a rough ride, but a worthwhile one. And it bloody well was. I adore Crime Story. I think it's a fantastic movie. Below that, we have Operation S, aka Once a Cop, aka Super Cop 2, aka Police Story 4. It's Jackie as you've never seen him before, as he turns in a slapstick-packed cameo in this Michelle Yeoh vehicle. The former Miss Khan plays the character she created in Police Story 3 in this spin-off, which Chan executive produced. Chan's scene, which has nothing to do with the main plot, sees him foiling a jewellery store robbery while dressed as a woman. Enter the Dragon. And finally below we have Drunken Master 2, finally wrapped recently after numerous delays caused by the conflicting schedules of a stellar cast and creative differences between Chan and director Lu Chi-lang. Reports are mixed as to the quality of Jackie's return to traditional kung fu flicks, but expect boffo biz when the flick opens in Hong Kong and elsewhere. It's interesting looking at all the movies listed on that page and knowing that, in fact, Drunken Master 2 was the one film that took the longest to reach UK audiences. Just crazy. On page 20 and 21, we get this double-page spread of the amazing Demolition Man starring Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes and Sandra Bullock, which I actually just watched last week on Netflix and thoroughly enjoyed going back to it. I don't want to focus too much on that, of course. We have still got plenty of pages to get through. Overleaf, we are followed by more ads for Muscles and this Shaolin Way. Just one of the advertisements that opened the floodgates for me getting my hands on more Hong Kong movies when I had the funds eventually, of course. I mean, look at that. 20 quid for one bootleg video, although the postage was pretty cheap, I have to say. It says guaranteed first generation copies, but I don't know, some of them definitely were not. But again, seeing this list of new movies before Made in Hong Kong and Eastern Heroes had really started pumping them out on video was just so exciting. King of Beggars, City Hunter, Moon Warriors, Barefoot Kid, The First Shot, and The Last Hero in China. You can understand why someone who is just finding more out about Hong Kong cinema would get so excited and send these absolute strangers money in the post, and you don't even know if you're going to get anything back for it. But I did, thankfully. Opposite, we have got a great poster for Cynthia Rothrock's pretty entertaining Guardian Angel. I quite enjoyed that film, and of course this leads to Overleaf, the Cynthia Rothrock interview with Bay Logan questioning the lethal white female, although that line of inside Cynthia Rothrock really hasn't aged well. Another fantastic collection of pictures though, really like what they've done here with this spread. The write-up opens with, anyone who doubts that Cynthia Rothrock is the world's most popular action heroine should try accompanying her on a UK tour. Mobbed at a televised kickboxing event, cheered to the echo at a martial arts school, and with queues around the block at a Blockbuster Video appearance, the divine Miss R seems to be underappreciated rather than overexposed. I love this first question that he fires at her straight away. I mean, Bay certainly doesn't beat about the bush. Cindy, the last few films you've released in the UK haven't been your best. And at the same time, a couple of intriguing projects have been announced but not made. One movie I'd like to ask you about is the proposed erotic thriller from GEL, Dark Red. What a cheeky fecker. But I do love how Cindy just completely ignores his comment and goes on to talk about the erotic thriller Dark Red. Maybe a wee bit too much. Originally titled Blade, she goes on to state that it wasn't made at the time of this interview, but it did come about around a year later. In fact, it did get a wider home video release under the retitling of Fatal Passion and is sometimes known as Portrait in Red. I do have it on DVD and it's not terrible, but don't be expecting a martial arts extravaganza. I also like how she mentions that her mum thought Fast Getaway was pornographic. That is just hilarious. Bay goes on to bring up the fact that she changed her hair from blonde to red. Speaking of the redhead look, why did you go for the change of image? Cynthia says, I always wanted to have my hair red in a film, and everyone would always say no, because they like the blonde LA look. For Fast Getaway, I asked if I could do my hair red, and they said no, but we'll put a red wig on you when it comes to robbing the bank. I did Rage and Honor 1, and when I did Rage and Honor 2, I thought, there's no way they're going to let me dye my hair red because it's a sequel. Anyway, I talked to the producer and I said, Kevin, what would you think about having my hair red in this film? I mean, in the first film, this character's brother tries to kill her, and so in part 2, she wants to get away from it all and forget the past, so she dyes her hair red. He goes, I love it. Over the page, Bay goes on to insult her acting and movies again before asking her if she was aware that she was getting a bit better. Jesus Christ. He then asks why she never appeared in the third martial law movie, Mission of Justice, with her role going to her Righting Wrongs co-star Karen Shepard. Cynthia replies, negotiation problems. We couldn't agree on a price. Normally, price doesn't matter to me. If I really like the film, I'll do it. However, it seemed like the same role again and again. The girlfriend of the cop. I wanted to do different things now. I have one script that someone is writing for me, and it's so off the wall. I love art films. I can't tell you much about it. It uses martial arts, but see, it doesn't have to be a police film just because it has martial arts in it. Why can't you just have a good, unique story? Bay says, why indeed, then goes on to bring up the infamous skeleton in her closet, 24 Hours to Midnight by producer Sonny Lim. Clearly he touched a nerve because she has quite the lengthy reply. Cynthia replies, for the record, right, I was dating George Chung at the time. I did the film as a favour to him. I was getting ready to shoot China O'Brien and I really didn't have any time. I said, no, I really can't do the picture. The producer said, okay, how about you doing 4 days as a cameo? Again, I refused, but then they offered me a lot of money. At this time, I wasn't that popular. This was in the late 80s, and I said, okay, I'll do 4 days for that, but you cannot bill me as the lead. You have to put special appearance by. At this time, I really didn't know anything about business. I didn't have a manager. George just wrote a contract on a piece of paper for me. I got to the set and I had 4 days of shooting. By the start of the third day, they still hadn't paid me my full salary, so I said, if you don't have it for me before tomorrow, I'm not coming to the set. I knew there was a possibility that these guys wouldn't pay me. The fourth day comes and the money isn't there, so of course I do go to the set because I'll threaten, but when it really comes down to it, I really wouldn't put someone in a position like that no matter what. Bay chirps in saying, Cindy, you're too nice, and she continues, well, maybe now I would because I've been ripped off so often. On this occasion, I went and I worked on it and I never got paid for it. Later, Sonny Lim called me and asked me to finish the picture. The production was so bad, no one knew what they were doing. Said movie actor Leo Fong came in on the last day and wanted to shoot the whole movie in 2 days. As a result, they needed me to shoot scenes that they hadn't managed to shoot in the 4 days, which is why Sonny called me. I said, I'm sorry things didn't work out well, Sonny, but that's not my fault. Treat me as a professional actress. You pay me what you owe me for these 4 days and I'll do whatever you want on the rest of the movie, but you have to pay me for the extra time. He goes, no, I'll pay you what I owe you, but you finish the whole movie for nothing. I told him, no, now it's business. You abide by our contract and I'll abide by it. Of course, he didn't want to put any more money into it and I never heard any more from him. Then the film comes out at the film markets and people are going, oh, your build is the lead. Then Sonny's lawyer called me and said they were going to sue me. They showed me this bogus contract that I never even signed. I told his lawyer, listen, I could sue Sonny. I was going to drop it, but if you want me to, I will. I talked to some lawyers and they said, oh, he's in Singapore. You'll be putting all this money out. I said, forget it. I learned from the experience. Always have a professional contract and never do favours for friends, especially boyfriends. After that, Bay says that he's sorry he brought it up. Bullshit. He knew exactly what he was doing because he goes on to say that Sonny threatened to sue him for printing what was pretty much the same version of events Cynthia had just told him. So he damn well knew. Opposite, there's a competition to win the soundtrack to Dragon the Bruce Lee story on CD. I don't think I entered that one, but belated good luck to those of you that did. On page 28 and 29, we have got the Impact Letters page, which makes for a fun read today. There's someone asking to buy people's back issues of Impact and Eastern Heroes magazines, and even sending in their address to be printed. You wouldn't do that today. And James from Cheltenham is very unhappy with Barry Norman's review of John Woo's Hard Boiled. I remember that review pretty well. I saw it on its original broadcast on British television, and I would say it was my first time ever seeing Chow Yun-fat in action. Now obviously I was gobsmacked and couldn't wait to get my hands on it, and clearly ignored what Barry Norman was saying about it. And here, Kathy from Irby agrees with James, cringing at Barry Norman's review. Then Raymond from Dublin is calling out for Rick Baker to be God, asking Bay here to pass on his thanks to the team at Eastern Heroes. But had Raymond used his noggin, he just had to look here at the fan club addresses that list Eastern Heroes and their London address. I have to say, I always wanted to join their fan club. I just could never afford to do it. And quite obviously, the Jackie Chan International Fan Club and Jimmy Yuen Bio Fan Club, which I think was just his office in Hong Kong. And bloody free, as I'm just noticing. Ah, fuck. Anyway, I do regret missing out, but I was so bloody poor. Over the page, we get a brief interview with director James Glickenhaus, the man behind Jackie Chan's US action thriller, The Protector. Of course, Bay Logan interviews again. I'm beginning to think he was the only employee at Impact magazine. Great selection of pictures though. I remember loving this on my first read, and I'm nearly sure I had seen or owned the film at this stage. I actually still have that very same video, believe it or not. It's a short, but it's an interesting piece. I've also seen a video interview with James talking about the film, and he was hardly nice about Jackie and other things, so let's see what he has to say. On paper, it was a match made in action movie heaven. James Glickenhaus, helmer of Hollywood action hits The Exterminator and Codename Soldier, joining forces with Jackie Chan, martial arts movie maestro of Drunken Master and Dragonlord fame. East meets West, and the results could have been explosive. For some reason, The Protector didn't turn out that way. Sure, it made many times its money back in overseas sales, and probably remains the most financially successful Chan flick worldwide. However, theatrical audiences in the all-important American and British territories stayed away in droves. Slick packaging led to a home video hit, but most fans felt that the feature failed to capture the Jackie magic on film. Well, yes, it bloody well did. Chan the Man recut the picture for his own Southeast Asian market and now reviles the project. Impact caught up with the man in the crossfire, the indefatigable and dynamic James Glickenhaus, and got his side of the story. Jim, how did The Protector come about? James answers, Tom Gray, Raymond Chow's head of production, called me up and he says, we have this guy Jackie Chan. He's a huge star in Asia and he wants to work with an American director. He likes your films. Would you consider working with him? I thought, gee, I love those films. I had loved Bruce Lee. I'd love to make one. He told me that they wanted to shoot in Hong Kong and I said, look, I don't want to shoot the whole thing there, but if you let me write something that takes place partially in New York and partially in Hong Kong, I'll do that. He said, here's the deal. We'll use your name, Jackie's name, and pick a title. We'll go to Cannes to pre-sell the picture. Whatever the pre-sales are, that's the budget and you can do with it what you want. We went to Cannes and did fairly well. I went to Hong Kong to look around and then wrote the story. Bay asks, many people feel that the Hong Kong filmmakers have raised action movies to a new level, and here's you, as an American director, going to shoot a film there. How did you find the experience of working with Jackie and his stunt team? James replies, it was interesting. Right from the beginning, I told Jackie that this was my film. I was directing it. I was going to direct the martial arts sequences, and we were going to do them completely different than he did it. Bay says, was he under the impression that he was going to direct the fight scenes? James replies, no, he wanted me to do it, but it was very hard for him. They never shoot masters. They shoot very short sections. They do a lot of undercranking to speed up the action, which I refuse to do. They do the fights in 2-second bites. Camera here, punch, camera here, kick. I shoot masters. I love masters. I told them that I wanted to shoot the fight in masters, and then, if they didn't work, go back and cover them. Jackie said, we can't fight for 2 minutes. I said, of course you can. It was a total change for them. Quite an interesting answer that James gave there, because that is not what I would have expected. Bay continues, how did you feel about the fact that Jackie reshot the ending and shot some extra scenes after you left Hong Kong? This is interesting. James says, no, he didn't. What happened was that he told me that the Chinese and Japanese audiences wanted the fights to go on 4 times as long as I wanted them to go on. Technically, I had the final cut on the picture, so I should have said no, but I told Raymond that they could include additional footage that we had shot for those markets. Jackie didn't reshoot anything. Bay bites back saying, well, I hate to defer, but I've seen the Chinese-Japanese print and there are definitely extra sequences in it. James says, well, in that case, they did stuff that they didn't tell me about and they didn't have a right to do. That's fantastic. Bay asks, why was Bill Wallace's voice dubbed in the American print of the film? James answers, because he was awful. I just felt that I could improve his performance. Bay then goes on to ask, have you seen Jackie's Police Story movies? And if so, how would you compare them with The Protector? James answers, yes, I've seen them. I've seen a lot of Hong Kong cinema. I think it's very interesting, terrific stuff. It just doesn't have a chance in the United States. Look at Hard Target. I think that if John Woo had been left to his own devices, then the film would have been a complete disaster in the United States. To find an Asian film that's been a hit in America, you have to go back to Enter the Dragon, and I think Bruce Lee was a filmmaker with a very Western sensibility. Jesus, he'd be eating his words today, that's for sure. Bay goes on to ask, my experience has been that Jackie and his team don't like The Protector. Did you have any indication while you were making it that he was unhappy? James says, none at all. It was generally a very pleasant experience, and I don't think the film achieved what Raymond Chow wanted it to do. It was an action movie made for an American audience, starring Jackie Chan. Again, another interesting response that brings that interview to a close. On page 32 and 33, this spread has always cracked me up. It's friggin' hilarious. Impact checks out the current crop of heroic hunks. Oh, Jesus Christ. Video saved the B-movie star. Fucking hell, these puns are shite sometimes. Okay, let's read through them. Lorenzo Lamas. Nationality, Spanish-American. Strengths. Jesus. Good looks. Girls still like him because of Falcon Crest, which was a soap. Weaknesses. Indifferent acting. Overexposed. Renegade. And a serious knee injury. Best film. Bounty Tracker, or Codename Alexa, or Night of the Warrior. Clearly they couldn't settle on anything. Worst film, Final Impact. Most embarrassing on-screen moment, his non-reaction to his brother's death in Bounty Tracker, or his solo martial arts display in Final Impact. It gets better, trust me. Don Wilson, nationality, Japanese-American. Strengths, popular with American video retailers. Weaknesses, can't act. Indifferent body, so-so on-screen fighting skills. Jesus. Best film, Tough Call, Ring of Fire maybe. Does he have a best film? Worst film, Blood Fight, or Blood Fight 2, or Ring of Fire 2, or, and then it stops. Most embarrassing on-screen moment, all his scenes with love interest and mentor in Out for Blood. Jesus. Gary Daniels, nationality, British. Strengths, great bod, superb flexibility, genuinely nice. Weaknesses, unproven acting skills, not as pretty as Van Damme. I beg to differ. Best film, City Hunter. Worst film, all those Filipino ones. Most embarrassing on-screen moment, scene where he is beaten up by Stephen Vincent Lee in Ring of Fire, cut from the UK print. So, as a UK magazine, nobody is going to know what he's talking about because it was cut from the UK print. Olivier Gruner, nationality, French, strengths, great condition, screen presence, likability. Weaknesses, thick accent, indifferent fight choreography, long wait between Angel Town and Nemesis. That's hardly a fucking weakness, that wasn't his fault. Best film, Nemesis, I agree. Worst film, Angel Town. Most embarrassing on-screen moment, the love scene at the start of Angel Town. Oh dear lord. Jeff Speakman, nationality, American, strengths, okay actor, fine martial artist, real good guy. I quite like Jeff Speakman, I really do. Weaknesses, uncut bod, not a great kicker, long gap between first and second films. Again, that's hardly a weakness. Best film, Street Night. Worst film, AWOL. Most embarrassing on-screen moment, all scenes with leading lady in Street Night. It seems that everyone's most embarrassing moment seems to be their love scenes. And then we have Jeff Wincott, nationality Canadian, strengths, great bod, good actor, nice guy. Weaknesses, so-so martial arts skills, I think he's fantastic. Best film, Martial Outlaw. Worst film, Deadly Bet. Most embarrassing on-screen moment, surely the haircut and all the clothes he wore on Night Heat. Jesus, what a spread. Let's move on. Bey Logan interviews Brian Bosworth. You see, he's the only employee at Impact. Anyway, I was never really a fan of this guy, never a fan of his movies, but here in this black and white shot, he does look a little like Kurt Russell, mind you. Now, this was more my thing. Bey Logan, surprise, surprise, interviews Roy Horan about Jackie Chan's Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, a film which, at this stage, I had not yet seen. So it was very exciting for me to see these cool pictures of Jackie and that awesome video artwork. A Snake in the Mind's Eye, Roy Horan remembers making a Jackie Chan classic. Despite the fact that Hong Kong is, for now, a British colony, the Chinese cinema has remained largely impenetrable for foreign performers. Asian actors who complain that Hollywood operates an informal colour bar should try finding work on the fast-paced Cantonese production treadmill. Chinese producers are notorious for striking hard bargains with overseas performers, and no Westerner, with the possible exception of Cynthia Rothrock, has ever become a star on the Far Eastern film circuit. One man who beat the odds was Roy Horan, a martial artist schooled in the disciplines of Shorinji Kempo and Taekwondo. He made his movie debut in the forgettable Bruce Lee flick, Bruce Lee's Secret, shot in Taiwan. This role led to a featured bad guy part in the kung fu classic Snuff Bottle Connection, and it was due to that film that Horan was flown to Hong Kong alongside his instructor Wong Zhang-li by producer Ng Si-yun. While in the Crown Colony, Roy was invited to play another bad guy, this time opposite one Jackie Chan. In this exclusive interview, Horan takes us back to the location of the film that launched Chan's bid for stardom, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. Bey Logan begins, I believe you were initially invited to come to Hong Kong to participate in a no-holds-barred fight to promote Snuff Bottle Connection. We'll talk about that in a later issue. How did Snake come about? Roy answers, Ng Si-yun told me that he might be making a film in Hong Kong and that I could participate in it if I wanted to. I was really unwilling to continue to do films, but I was interested in spending some time in Hong Kong. Wong Zhang-li and I were staying together in Hong Kong in an apartment provided by Seasonal Films. At that time, Seasonal had a stable of actors, and Wong was one of them. Ng discussed with me in doing this film, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow, with Jackie Chan. Bey states, it sounds bizarre now, but making that film with Jackie was a real risk because every film he had made up until that time, Roy interrupts, had been a flop. Yes. Bey asks, did you have any indication that this film would do as well as it did? Roy answers, no. The only discussions I had with Ng prior to the shooting of the film were about the storyline. He told me they were going to use snake kung fu and whatnot in it. I asked him if they wanted to sell the film overseas, and he said of course. I told him he should consider one point, that most Westerners don't really understand what these kung fu movements are all about. The moves originate from animals, so I suggested that he use animals to set it up, so Western people could understand. That's how the snake and the cat sequences came to be in that movie. Bay asks, what was Jackie like when you first met? Roy answers, I didn't know very much about Jackie when I met him, other than he was going to be the lead in the film. He was a very amiable guy, very nice. I find that he had a tremendous amount of determination to get things right, and he was very, very brave. I was still not an accomplished screen fighter, and they had me fighting with a sword. If you look at some of the shots, I'm swinging that sword very, very fast. It's a metal sword, and I'm coming within an inch of his head, full speed. Bay asks, what was the late Yuen Siu-tin like? Roy answers, very, very nice guy. Hardly spoke at all, always with a smile on his face. They would ask him to do something, and he'd just get up and do it. Very quiet. Definitely a wonderful man, and wonderful to work with. Bay continues, I understand that Wang Zhongli kicked out one of Jackie's front teeth during the filming of the final fight. Horan answers, that was a cap. It wasn't a full tooth he had knocked out. Bay continues, I remember reading an article you wrote for an American magazine in which you captioned a photo reading Jackie Chan's stunt double. I'm surprised Jackie needed a stunt double at that time. Roy answers, no, we used doubles throughout the film because there were some movements that Jackie could not perform. He can do many, many things, but there are some movements that were just very difficult to do. You needed an acrobat. His double was one of the Yuen brothers. Bay says, tell us something people don't know about Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. Roy delivers a lengthy answer. What a lot of people don't know about Snake is that you see me use a sword, but you never see me use my left hand because I had a dislocated shoulder throughout the entire shoot. What happened was, right at the beginning, director Yuen Woo-ping comes up to me and says, we want you to do a stunt. See this ladder? Jump off that ladder onto this trampoline, do a flip, and then slice the sword before you land on the ground. I told him I hadn't done any stunts before, and he told me that it was very easy. They wanted me to do it myself because it was very difficult to get a stuntman to match me. I gave it a shot. I came off the ladder, hit the trampoline, did the flip, managed half a cut with the sword before I landed on my shoulder full impact and dislocated it. Everyone kind of looked at me and went, oh no, what are we going to do? I asked how long the fight was going on for, and they told me I'd be filming for 2 days for at least 10 hours a day. I couldn't use my left arm, so they let me use the sword mostly. They asked if I could do it, and I said that I'd give it a try. It was excruciating. I had to roll on the ground and so on. I didn't get my arm rest for 2 days. After that, I went to a very good Chinese doctor, and he patched it up, and believe it or not, in 10 days, it was almost back to normal. That's how powerful Chinese medicine is. All the screams and shouts I do in that film, that wasn't acting. Bay follows up with his last question. Did you have any idea when you were making the film that it would do so well internationally? Roy answers, I looked at the way they were shooting the action and I thought it looked pretty good, but I didn't have a film mentality. I just did what was required of me. Then, when I saw the completed picture, it was a different story. It was then that I became involved in the business side in selling seasonal films overseas because I could see the potential of Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. What a fantastic wee piece. Over page we have The Secrets of Self-Defense. This was such a popular advertisement. Clearly only popular if you were ever getting attacked by pale looking goblins wearing DM boots and carrying a flick knife. But look over here. China beat news and reviews. Always my favourite part of the magazine, but it was just never big enough. Here we have the late Anita Mui and Maggie Cheung in Heroic Trio, which is actually mentioned here in the news update. Can you guess which Hong Kong actioneer was the biggest flick to hit Pakistan last year? The answer, Heroic Trio, the Michelle Khan, Anita Mui, Maggie Cheung three-hander, reviewed quite recently within these very pages. The film was so well received at home and abroad that a sequel, Executioners, has already been shot. I was under the impression that both films were shot back to back, so Executioners wasn't really made because of Heroic Trio's success. Anyway, under that, word is that filmic entrepreneur Toby Cinema of Vengeance Russell has an yet unseen Jackie Chan film lurking in his archive. This early Singlung effort sees a young Jackie in fine fighting form. Look for a release in '94. Also due for some exposure and from the same source are many of the finest Shaw Brothers flicks. It's about time. That Jackie Chan film must have been Young Tiger or Policewoman, which was released in the UK as Rumble in Hong Kong. On the top right, we have How to Pick Your Hong Kong Flick, which breaks down all the places you could have went in London to watch Asian cinema, buy movies, etc., and mentions how the Eastern Heroes shop would soon be opening, a shop I'd always dreamed of visiting, but I only ever actually got to go to Camden in 2024, 30 years too late. Now this spread absolutely blew my friggin' mind. How cool does that look? It's beautiful. Choi Hark's Wicked City, Michelle Yeoh's Project S, aka Once a Cop, aka Super Cop 2, aka Mega Cop, aka Police Story 4, and The Avenging Quartet, a guilty pleasure of mine which I would love to see restored on Blu. In fact, I want to see all three of them on Blu-ray. City Far From Wicked, sci-fi misfire for Choi. The ambitious Wicked City, based on the best-selling manga anime of the same title, is a co-production between Choi Hark's Film Workshop and Japan's Toho. The movie is packed with elements that unfortunately fail to gel. Extravagant SFX clash with gross-out prosthetic devices, while sentiment collides with ill-timed character comedy. Even the presence of experienced performers like Jackie Chung, Leon Lai, Tatsuya Nakada, and Yuen Woo-ping can't save Wicked City from being any more than a fascinating oddity from Choi's protege, Mak Tai-kit. Clearly, Po Ling wasn't a big fan of the awesome Wicked City starring Jackie Chung and Leon Lai, stating that it just didn't gel and that Jap anime fans, as he puts it, should seek out the UK VHS release of the anime instead. I disagree. I loved this film. Michelle Khan, here they go again calling her Khan whenever they quite clearly stated in the magazine that she is now known as Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Khan, currently the hottest name among the Hong Kong battling babes, is back on top form with Project S, US title Once a Cop, in which she plays the character she created opposite Jackie Chan in Police Story 3 Super Cop. That might not mean much to the more general Chan fans who won't have seen the as yet unreleased in the UK Police Story 3. Project S, which is currently playing on the UK Chinese movie circuit, features some top-flight fight and stunt action from the gutsy Miss Khan and a supporting cast featuring Flavour of the Month Yu Wing-guang from Iron Monkey fame and Dragon-in-Waiting Fan Su-wong, who gets to pay his dues as a Hong Kong fighting star by taking on the redoubtable Dick Wei. Director Stanley Tong shows his usual flair for action in the opening and closing scenes. In the former, Khan and Yu take on a gang of terrorists, including fan fave Yukari Oshima, and in the latter, it's Michelle and Su Wong against a lethal lineup of bank robbers. In between these battling bookends, the pace flags a little when elements of comedy and romance are introduced. Jackie Chan, who executive produced the flick, turns in a gracious cameo. Project S delivers the goods as an A-grade Hong Kong actioneer, but as is usually the case with non-Jackie Chan Golden Harvest flicks, it's unlikely to get a mainstream release for the UK. Well, that's a load of nonsense because I have about 3 or 4 different versions of this movie released in the UK under different titles. Then we have these beauties in this fun but flawed action flick, The Avenging Quartet, Moon Lee, Yukari Oshima, Cynthia Khan and Machiko Nishiwaki. I mean, such incredible promotional artwork. The write-up reads, "This low-budget Hong Kong potboiler is noteworthy for bringing together the 4 most prolific battling babes in the Chinese film biz. Ironically, 2 of the 4 are from Japan. A convoluted plot asks you to believe that Waste Lee is handsome enough to get Cynthia Khan and Moon Lee fighting over him. Sadly, events are not staged in such a way as to allow for a head-to-head comparison between the fighting skills of the feisty 4. Our impact rating has Lee currently the most bodacious battling bitch in the biz, with Nipponese nutcracker Yukari Oshima just behind her. Cynthia Khan has turned in some terrific performances of late, especially in Samo's Blade of Fury, but Machiko My Lucky Stars Nishiwaki, never comfortable with the role of ball-busting boy toy, has head west to Tinseltown. Avenging Quartet is worth a look-see as a one-time only union of feminine furies, and the Babes, Bikes and Bullets poster art is a keeper." Page 42 and 43 we get a breakdown of new video releases, mainly on the rental market, and it's not a bad selection of films really, beginning with my late friend Albert Pune's hugely entertaining Brain Smasher, A Love Story. I recently got this on German Media Book Blu-ray and it looked glorious, but I do remember having it on VHS way back when. Below that we have Bounty Tracker with Lorenzo Lamas and Matthias Hughes. I remember seeing it once, that was it, as was the same for his CIA codename Alexa over here. Live by the Fist I never did see with Jerry Trimble, and the Bruce Lee Mandarin Master just didn't interest me at the time. Of course, today it's a different matter. But naturally, my attention was drawn immediately to this awesome artwork and video cover for Jackie Chan's film. Well, now we know it's not really his film, The Prisoner, aka Island of Fire. I did manage to pick this exact one up soon after as an ex-rental for just £3, and I still have it today in my collection. Let's have a wee read to see what it says. Budo behind bars. The lover meets the protector, meets the magnificent butcher, meets the one-armed boxer in The Prisoner. I mean, that alone fucking sounds amazing. How Jackie Chan found time to find a sizable role for this Wang Yu produced actioneer is anybody's guess. Well, now we all know, especially when you learn that he was directing and starring in the epic Operation Condor at the time. However, shoot it he did, and with surprisingly good results. Though Chan gets top billing and is the prominent face on the video sleeve, the star of the piece is actually Tony Leung, the face, though not the voice, of the lover. He plays a cop who goes undercover into a corrupt prison. Once there, he becomes witness to the gangland feud between Chan and Andy Magic Crystal Lau. Also on hand is Sammo Hung as an amiable fellow inmate, and the one-armed boxer himself, Jimmy Wang Yu, as the big brother of the prison population. Fans of the prison movie genre will enjoy spotting the blatant steals from classics like Papillon and Cool Hand Luke. For the final reel, the plot takes a sharp left into Nikita territory, with Chan, Hung, Leung and Lau forming a four-man hit squad to take on what appears to be the entire Filipino army. Given the somewhat dubious conditions in which it was made, The Prisoner is surprisingly good entertainment. The lighting and cinematography are first rate, as is the haunting score. The UK version is slightly shorter than the Chinese print, but features a little more Jackie footage. And finally, Cannon Films boss Menachem Golan speaks to, guess who? That's right, Bey Logan. I wonder does he tell him how bad his movies are like he did with Cindy. He was the force behind Cannon Films, of course, the movie-making entity largely responsible for the careers of Van Damme after he made No Retreat, No Surrender, Chuck Norris, Michael Dudikoff, David Bradley, and for the recent films of established action stars like Charles Bronson and Michael Paré, although they have been making the Death Wish sequels with Bronson since 1982, so I wouldn't say that it was recent in 1994. According to Bey, the following piece may be a first in Golan giving a full interview. Well, this is going to be fun. I'm not going to read it all, although I will select bits throughout. Starting with Bey's first question, I believe the very first martial arts action film you produced was Enter the Ninja. Menachem starts his answer with, it was the first ninja picture ever. I came upon the ninja idea before anybody ever brought it to the screen. Well, I'm going to call bullshit on that, since the first Japanese ninja film was actually made around 1937 and pretty much every other month after that. And even before that, the Japanese were making ninja-themed silent movies as far back as 1912. So let's just say that he meant in the West, and we'll give him that one. He does go on to say, however, how he had seen some Hong Kong movies and thought there was something there, although felt that they were very primitive. Jesus, clearly he wasn't watching the right ones. He then states that he wanted to bring that kind of thing to Hollywood, but wanted to add a bit more spirituality to them rather than just kicking. As I say, clearly he wasn't watching the right kind of Hong Kong and Taiwanese movies. Jesus. He then mentions that he met Sho Kosugi, they talked for hours, and that's when it all kicked off. Menachem replies, right, Mike came to me after I met Sho Kosugi. I was looking for someone in America who would be a martial artist, a teacher, and I chose him. I put them together and they started to shoot the film in the Philippines. Unfortunately, the director was not good enough. I saw the rushes after 10 days of filming and I got on a plane, went there and threw all the material out. I knew the story was good, the idea was good, and I knew that if I really took care of it, it would be something original and would create a trend. Bey then asks what was wrong with the original footage. I love his answer. Well, they involved Oriental sex. Okay, this is hilarious. I'll read on. Bay says, you replaced Mike Stone with Franco Nero? Menachem replies, yes, and I made Mike Stone the choreographer. Mike Stone was not really an actor, you understand? He had a presence, he was a martial artist, but we needed an actor. Franco Nero was around and is quite a good actor and personality. I asked him if he would do it, and he goes, what is this ninja business? He didn't know a thing about it. We went into it. We found out about the white ninjas, the black ninjas, the prayers before you go into action, the belief in your own spiritual powers. All of this was very interesting for us. This is a fascinating interview. Bay continues, the film was very successful all over the world, and it launched not only a whole new genre of action movies, but a fascination with the ninjas. Did you ever sit back and think, my God, what have I done? Launching all these ninjas into the unsuspecting world. Jesus Christ. Menachem says, no, I enjoyed it. We ourselves did about 7 or 8 ninja pictures. Then the next thing that came about was this gentleman from Belgium, a student of martial arts named Van Damme. He had a fantastic build and unbelievable physical potential. For almost 1 year, he bugged me. He was sitting in front of my office. I said, Mr. Van Damme, I don't have anything for you. He hardly spoke English. Then I had the idea to do a kickboxing film, and that became Bloodsport. Bay then asks, is that famous story that has him doing the splits between 2 chairs in your office true? Menachem says, he started it in a restaurant one evening. He was working as a waiter to make a living and said, you must come do a film with me. I told him come to my office, but I wasn't really serious. He was calling my office for days and days. My secretary was sick and tired of him. He came and brought all kinds of scripts. He said, you do a movie with me and you'll never regret it. Bay continues, eventually you gave him Bloodsport to do in Hong Kong. After the film was completed, you shelved it for a year. Why? Menachem answers, the director was a former cameraman. There was a lack of concept, the fights were not cut right, and Van Damme said, Menachem, let me help with the cutting because I know exactly what is missing here. We sat together, him and me, in the cutting room, and for a few months we worked on it. At the end, we had Bloodsport, which made $10 million. Bay continues, for Van Damme's next film, you made a science fiction epic, Cyborg, which surprised a lot of people. I think they were expecting Bloodsport 2 or something like that. Menachem answers, you're right. I was looking for something beyond a regular martial arts movie. At that time, science fiction, with all the special effects, was coming up in a big way. Listen, I'm all the time thinking of original and new material and ideas. I'm looking to find some new angles, not to repeat what has been done before. The market is full of Bloodsport and ninjas and cyborgs. Bay goes on, at the time, Cyborg was criticised, but it's become a cult classic and it spawned 2 official sequels besides American Cyborg and Nemesis. Menachem replies, similarly, when I was working with Chuck Norris, we developed the war hero, the American Warrior for the Missing in Action series, and with Michael Dudikoff, a young American with some knowledge of martial arts, we developed him to have his own style of films. We made him a ninja, but a false ninja, an American ninja, which really never existed. So, always new ideas. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is just brilliant. Anyway, I'm going to jump on because I really want to get down to his final question, which I feel is quite an important one. Bay says, I was going to ask you as a closing question what the next genre would be, who the next action star will be, but from what you're telling me, you're still looking. Menachem answers, we're looking. We're hunting desperately to find the new Van Damme, the new Schwarzenegger. I have a new script developed and I'm looking for a new star to be in it. It's called Armstrong and it's a science fiction oriented piece. Oh my God. We're looking beyond to find new realities in the space era. We're approaching the year 2000 and we have to look for ideas that will appeal to the young kids of today. Computer games have changed the world forever. Kids today are so intelligent, so bright, and they know better than all of us. To entertain them, you have to be so sophisticated. Bay asks, of all the films you've done during the long history of canon, which one are you most proud of? And Menachem Golan replies, the next one. An interesting response considering, as mentioned before, that Cannon Films went defunct in this month of January 1994. I mean, it's absolutely mental to think. It went on to be rebranded, of course, as Pathé Communications, and then later took on by MGM. So yes, while that interview may have been a first, it may have also been the last. The page opposite, which was the last page of the interior of the magazine, which I always love to see, got me so excited for the next issue. And of course, after buying this first issue, started an absolute obsession. Coming soon, we have Cyborg 3 on location for the latest cyberpunk actioneer. Then we have Surf's Up, Hulk Hogan is back in Thunder in Paradise. The Men That Were Tong Po, Michael Kissy and Kamel Crikes are two more men from Brussels with movie-making muscles. American Yakuza, the best actioneer of 1994. Then we have the producers, Vision International's Mark Damon on Double Impact, Shoot Fighter, The Quest and Johnny Mnemonic, and seasonal success, the Far Eastern filmmaking odyssey of Roy Horan. Obviously continuing that interview that just cut itself short there. And then of course we have the China Beat special, the Hong Kong movie making report from the Crown Colony, sporting pictures of Mark Houghton, Cynthia Khan there and Yuen Biao. Bay Logan flew to the east to find the best for the west. Oh my God almighty. On sale 20th of January. Don't miss out. Order your copy now because they always kind of came out the month previous. Although I didn't find this issue until early January, it had been on sale from probably before Christmas. And finally, closing the first episode of Deep Impact, the back page, and an advertisement that graced the back of this magazine many times. The MAI, although I thought it was always MIA when the video played. Anyway, the Videotheque VHS release of the Bruce Lee Martial Arts Master documentary, which I never did own or want. But they were clearly pushing the shit out of this one, as I remember seeing it on so many issues and many other pages. But hey, it has been a fantastic trip down memory lane going through this issue with you. I'm George Clark and this has been Deep Impact. See you next month for the February 1994 issue. So thank you once again for watching another video here on Invincible Asia. Don't forget you can check out hundreds of others here on the channel. You can also show your continued support by heading over to my new merch store or by checking out invincibleasia.com where you can read my full movie reviews and follow me on Instagram @InvincibleAsia. Until next time though, enjoy your Kung Fu and I will see you soon.